Barry Crane was a very well-known professional bridge player who had a lot of success in the 1970s and 1980s. He won many national and world titles and was known as one of the best players. On July 5, 1985, he was found dead in his Los Angeles home. This was a very sad turn in his life. Barry Crane's death was a mystery for a long time. The investigation looked into many possible leads and suspects, but there was not enough proof to make an arrest right away. Hi and welcome back to our channel. If you are a new viewer, please consider subscribing, as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Let's have a look at the 34-year-old twisted cold case, finally solved in 2019. On November 4, 1927, Barry Samuel Crane was born in Oakland, California. He was born into a family that belonged to the middle class, and he had an early talent for playing card games. Crane received his education in civil engineering at the University of California, Berkeley. During his time as a student, he rapidly developed a strong affinity for card game. He polished his abilities by competing in several events and clubs in the area. Crane entered the field of professional bridge play after completing his school and working for some time as a civil engineer. However, his passion for the game ultimately led him to pursue a career in it. He started off by taking part in a variety of competitions across the country, where he demonstrated an incredible level of talent and expertise. When he started to take the bridge circuit by storm in the late 1960s and early 1970s, his career took off in a big way. Crane's style of play, which was characterized by aggression and a willingness to take risks, earned him the respect and dread of his rivals. He collaborated with other outstanding players to build powerful partnerships, which ultimately led to a string of victories for him. The likes of Charles Canoon, Jeff Westheimer, and Billy Eisenberg were partners in some of his most fruitful ventures together with other players. By the time we reached the 1980s, Barry Crane had gathered an extraordinary number of achievements. He took home more than 40 championships in the North American Bridge Championships, as well as 12 medals at the World Bridge Federation World Championships. Because of his accomplishments and his talent, he is recognized as one of the most illustrious and well-known figures in the world of bridge. Crane's personal life was not without its share of difficulties, despite the fact that he was successful in the game. He had a child from his first marriage, and he married a second time. However, it was difficult for him to maintain strong family relationships because of the demands of his bridge business as well as his frequent travel. In spite of this, he never wavered in his commitment to his line of work and maintained his status as a major player in the bridge community. When the tragic news of Barry Crane's untimely demise broke on July 5, 1985, the bridge community was in disbelief. His opulent apartment in Studio City, Los Angeles, was the location of the grisly discovery of his body. Crane's housekeeper made the grim discovery of his dead body and quickly phoned the authorities. The crime scene revealed a brutal struggle. Crane had been fatally beaten with a blunt object, and there were indications that the door to the house had been broken down in order to gain entry. It was not immediately clear what motivated the murder, but it was clear that the perpetrator or perpetrators intended to kill him when they committed the crime. After hearing the news of Crane's passing, the bridge world fell into a state of mourning. The passing of such a gifted and well-liked player was a blow to his circle of friends, colleagues, and fans. From every area of the bridge community came an outpouring of grief and condolences in the form of messages. In response to the homicide of Barry Crane, the Los Angeles Police Department immediately opened a comprehensive investigation. In the beginning, the detectives had a difficult time finding meaningful clues that could lead them to the perpetrator of the crime. They looked into a variety of different avenues and conducted interviews with people who were familiar with Crane. The fact that Crane had a large number of friends and acquaintances, both within and outside of the bridge world, posed one of the most significant obstacles in the inquiry. Because of this, it was difficult to determine a particular motivation for the crime or to locate a possible suspect. As the hours moved into days and the days into weeks and the weeks into months, the investigation became progressively more inactive. The Los Angeles Police Department did not give up on the investigation, even if there were no new leads in the short term. They continued to get tips and leads from the general public, but none of them offered the breakthrough that was necessary for them to solve the case. The LAPD started questioning the players who were at the game in Pasadena and had seen or talked to Barry. The entry slips that the tournament players had filled out were taken as proof, but no one was charged or arrested. Carrie Schumann, who was with Barry, was horrified and could not believe that Barry had been killed. She had no idea who could have done that to Barry, but she was sure that the case would be solved quickly. Lieutenant Ron LaRue of the LAPD said that Barry's house was not destroyed, and there was no sign that it was broken into. He thought that Barry must have known the killer and given him permission to come into his flat. In 2006, a detective from the Robbery Homicide Division of the Los Angeles Police Department asked for evidence, such as fingerprints. The retest was done, but it did not help. 20 years had passed, and the case still had not been solved. The police and investigators kept looking for the suspect, but they found nothing that could lead them to the answer. Later in 2018, the RHD asked to test the fingerprints and other data gathered again. After the July 2018 trial, RHD got a forensic match to the person they think killed Barry. The police were finally able to find the suspect, Edwin Hyatt, who was living in a camping van and working in a car repair shop in Burke County, North Carolina. They did this with the help of social media and by serving search warrants on Facebook and Verizon. Since Hyatt lived about 3,000 miles away from the place where the crime happened, it was hard to link the evidence to him. After finding Hyatt, the FBI was always on the lookout for a chance to take a sample of his DNA without him knowing. Hyatt was finally able to do it when he stopped in a parking lot near his auto shop, had a cup of coffee, and smoked a few cigarettes. Without Mr. Hyatt's knowledge, an FBI monitoring team took the disposable coffee cup and cigarette ends. Court records say that these were then sent to be tested, and on January 19, the police finally found a DNA match. Edwin Jerry Hyatt was born in 1967, and he lived in North Carolina as a child and adolescent. From a very young age, Hyatt showed signs of being a bad person and used drugs. Not just killing Barry Crane, Hyatt was accused of a lot of things. Even before he was arrested for the 34-year-old cold case of Barry Crane, he was charged with car theft. He was caught in Utah with a stolen car in 1985, the same year that Barry Crane was killed. Hyatt was charged with domestic abuse in 1997. A witness said that Hyatt had hit and choked his wife until she threw up. After Hyatt was found guilty, his fingerprints were put into the police computer at that time. Hyatt got a divorce. Hyatt did not stop there. In 2013, he allegedly said he would burn down the house where his ex-wife lives. Hyatt moved to Connolly Springs and started working for Turning Leaf Tree Service until he had an accident. In 2014, he started helping at the Oat Suite and Creek Assisted Living Center. Later in 2018, the LAPD homicide officers went to Rutherford College, North Carolina, to talk to Hyatt. On March 8, 2019, Hyatt told the detectives that he had killed Barry Crane. On May 3, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office issued an arrest warrant for Hyatt and charged him with one count of murder with the special claim that he used a deadly and dangerous weapon during the crime. No reason was found, but if Hyatt was found guilty, he could go to jail for the rest of his life. Later, on May 9, 2019, the FBI's Fugitive Task Force caught Edwin Hyatt in North Carolina for killing Barry Crane. Then he went to California. In May 2019, when Hyatt was being let out of a sheriff's station, he told reporters that he lived in Burke County, North Carolina, and worked at a Mercedes-Benz car shop in Caldwell County, which is next door. When asked about the case's facts, Hyatt said he did not remember that day or even that time. He said that he could only remember things in bits and pieces, and that ideas were the only way to get them back. When he saw Barry's picture, he did not even remember his name, but when the cops said Barry's name, he remembered him. When reporters crowded around Hyatt as he was being taken to court, he told them that he is doing his best to get through that time. Hyatt told more questions that he could have killed Barry back then because he was hooked to drugs at the time. When Barry died in his flat, he would have been 18 years old. Even though Hyatt had a bad and confusing past, his coworkers said he was a kind and helpful person. When he was caught, Hyatt was working at Second Chance Engine Repair in Rutherford College, North Carolina. This is a place where cars are fixed. All of his coworkers said that he was a very humble and kind guy. Jason Smith, a coworker, said that Hyatt used to give him some of his small earnings and that Hyatt was like a father to him. He went on to say that Hyatt had only known him for 2 or 3 days, but had already made $40 and given him half of it. Dee Hall, another coworker, told the police that Hyatt was very kind and would not hurt a fly. The most interesting thing about the police interview with Hyatt's coworker Dee Hall was that when she was asked about Barry Crane's death, she did not say anything right away. Instead, she said that she did not know anything about it. She said that even if it was a murder, Hyatt might have been acting in self-defense and that no one but Hyatt should tell the story. Even though it had been over 30 years, Hyatt thought that he was not like that anymore, whoever he was back then. He thought everything was in the past, which he could not even remember, and that he had become a totally different person. His coworkers agreed with him and said that whatever happened was 30 years ago, and that he was a different person now. Ernest Ward, one of Hyatt's friends, provided additional insight into Hyatt's life during this period. Ward revealed that Hyatt had undergone a profound transformation, embracing religion and finding solace in his faith. He started to believe in Jesus and became deeply involved in helping others, attributing his actions to the name of Jesus. Ward shared that Hyatt had opened up about his past struggles with drug and alcohol abuse and expressed his gratitude for being saved by God. According to Ward, Hyatt had faced demons from his troubled past, and he needed someone to support him during this difficult phase. Ward willingly took on that role as a supportive friend. Before securing legal representation, Hyatt was reluctant to discuss anything further or provide reasons for the killing. His lawyer, Stephen Chevron, took over his defense during court appearances. On Friday, May 9, 2019, Hyatt made his first court appearance in a wheelchair and spoke in a barely audible manner. Due to a plea agreement with the district attorney's office, the court session was canceled. The next date for the hearing was set for June 7, 2019, and Hyatt remained in jail as he could not afford to post bail. During his time in Morgantown Jail in West Virginia, Hyatt continued to exhibit signs of his newfound religious beliefs. He began holding Bible study groups and became increasingly vocal about his faith. His friends from North Carolina, including Ernest Ward, noticed the positive changes in his behavior. Ward expressed how Hyatt's past struggles with drugs and alcohol were a thing of the past, as he now focused on living a life dedicated to helping others and following the teachings of Jesus. The transformation in Hyatt's life, which was evident to those who knew him, added complexity to the case. The contrast between the man who seemed genuinely changed by his religious convictions and the individual accused of a brutal murder puzzled many. Yet, despite this apparent transformation, the legal process continued and Hyatt's guilt or innocence would ultimately be determined in a court of law. Joshua Smart took over for Stephen Chevron as Hyatt's lawyer, and he was going to protect Hyatt in the upcoming proceedings. Joshua said that it was clear that Hyatt was ready to take responsibility and that he was a religious guy. It was decided that Hyatt would be let out of jail if the authorities could not find any proof by the beginning of August. Hyatt began Bible study groups while he was in the Morgantown Jail in West Virginia. Ernest Ward, one of his friends from North Carolina, said that Hyatt had become a very religious Christian and had been hoping to get out of that phase. On August 5, 2019, Hyatt was given the warrant from the governor, which said he had to be sent to California. The court then sent Hyatt to Los Angeles, California on August 15, 2019. Hyatt went to the Van Nuys Courthouse in Los Angeles on October 8, 2019. He was charged with one count of murder, but he pleaded not guilty. Beth Silverman, a deputy district attorney in the Major Crimes Unit, took over the case. If Hyatt was found guilty, the law says that he would have to serve the maximum term of life in prison. Hyatt was supposed to go to court on December 17, 2019, but on October 7, 2021, he pleaded guilty to killing Barry Crane on his own free will. He got 12 years in jail. Nobody could figure out a single reason why Hyatt killed Barry. Even though no one knew for sure what caused the murder, there were many ideas. Some people thought that Hyatt only wanted money to buy drugs and did not care what he had to do to get it. Others thought that Barry picked up Hyatt as an escort, and they were right. Some people think that Barry was gay and wanted to take advantage of Hyatt, who was only 18. Many people think that is the only way to explain what happened that day, since Barry and Hyatt did not know each other and Barry had no reason to invite Hyatt to his apartment. Another idea says that Barry was a very careful person who would never pick up someone he did not know. Since this is the case, Crane must have known Hyatt, and maybe he and Hyatt had a relationship that no one else knew about, and that was also private. But people think that Barry was gay, even though he kept it a secret, and that Los Angeles gave him the freedom he needed. Michael Bertzold wrote in a 2017 piece that Barry's Hollywood and bridge friends knew he was gay, even though he was quiet about it and did not say much about it. So this could back up the idea about what happened that day. Another idea was that Barry's reports and searches were limited because he was gay, which was a big deal at the time. During that time, there was also an AIDS epidemic. Gay men were the most hit by AIDS. So people thought that Barry's case was not taken seriously for a long time because of this bias. Barry's plans to cut his children out of his will were also a source of rumors. The source said that Barry had a meeting with his business boss about his will. The late Michigan Dr. Bill Malander, who played against Crane when he was in Detroit and treated his mother, found out that Barry's son Ben owed money to Las Vegas bettors. When Ben found out that Barry was planning to change his will, he made plans to kill his father. Even though Hyatt was caught and finally pleaded guilty, no one knows why he killed his wife. When the proof was first found, the case might have been easy to solve. But as the case gets older, it gets harder to solve, and this case was no different. Right now, you cannot come to a perfect conclusion. Almost everyone agrees that Hyatt had something to do with the murder, but the case is now closed, and no one can say for sure. That is what made it the cold case with the longest history in the Hollywood business. Barry Crane lived a life of luxury, which he showed by dominating the game of bridge and making his name in the television business. But in the end, his $900,000 net worth and luxury life came to an abrupt end, and we hope he is now resting in Mount Sinai Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills. So, what do you think about this unsolved crime? Was Hyatt the killer, or did he do it to protect himself? And why might someone have done what they did? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and do not forget to like, comment, and share this video. Please subscribe to our channel, where we will show you more cold cases and talk in depth about everything. Thanks for watching.